man, are you tired? Coffee's just not doing it for you these days. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about cacao. Cacao comes from the theobroma plant. Broma means food, and theo means, well, God. So why aren't more of us talking about this God-like food source? Packed with antioxidants, polyphenols, theobromine, which is like caffeine but without the jitters, healthy fat, low carbs, protein, magnesium, calcium, and the highest plant source concentration of iron known to man. Why aren't we consuming this stuff every day? Well, you can. Our partners at Cora Cacao offer ceremonial grade cacao, sustainably sourced, plant to paste from fair trade farms in the Mayan motherland of Guatemala. Cora Cacao is committed to delivering cacao products to you at reasonable prices in a way that makes the world a better place for all involved. Whether you're making morning cocoa lattes, iced cacao, hosting a meditation ceremony, or just doing alchemy in your mom's basement, Cora Cacao is committed to supplying you with the highest grade stuff for what you, your body, and your mind need. So head on over to coracacao.com. That's coracacao.com. Use promo code INTHEKEEP, one word, all caps, at checkout for 10% off your order. It's time to replace those bad habits with good ones, and using Cora Cacao for your energy and nutrient needs is a great place to start. I'm proud to call Cora Cacao a partner of In the Keep, and I hope that you will be proud to call them a new part of your daily routine. Much love. But even when the choice is made, you must still remember that of the real and the unreal there are many varieties, and discrimination must still be made between the right and the wrong, the important and the unimportant, the useful and the useless, the true and the false, the selfish and the unselfish. Jiddu Krishnamurti, age 14, 1910, from At the Feet of the Master.
My junior year in college, as many Americans do, I spent a semester in Europe, in Florence, Italy specifically. And I had never been, and I flew over by myself, so I'm 19 years old. And when I got off the train in Florence and walked out of the train station in order to get to my accommodations, I had this incredible sense of, like people would say deja vu, but it was deeper than that. It was like this crazy sense of, like, I've been here before, and I knew everything about the city. I mean, maybe not the newer sections, but I knew where the Duomo was. I knew where Santa Maria Novella was. Like, I knew where everything was, and I'd never been there before. At the time, I would never have made the connection between that experience and those feelings and that just overwhelming sense of, I know this city, and a past life that wasn't in my vocabulary or my awareness at that age. But it was definitely, I just kind of chalked it up to just some incredible deja vu.
The reason why that stood out to me so much, and this is something I've brought up a few times with different people, I feel I grew up sort of in the countryside here in the States, and the first time that I landed in Europe, I immediately felt this different energy that I had never felt before, where it's, where are you from originally?
New York City.
Okay. It may be different for you because I think cities, especially New York being an older city, have a bit more in common with Europe than, say, like, I don't know, Springdale, Missouri or whatever.
Sure.
But it seems like we in America sort of have a lot of open space that hasn't gotten all of this resonant energy, say, from thousands and thousands of years of war, conflict, just generally larger populations and such. So I've heard a few different people tell me, like the first time I went to Europe or the first time that I went to a certain place or whatever, that they
Mhm.
had this psychic experience or this spiritual experience of just
Mm.
there's an energy here I've never felt before. I've never been exposed to before.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes sense, and I think you very much pinpointed the reason why that is. I mean, most of human history since the birth of humanity has been in the European continent, Northern Africa, and Asia.
mhm,
What was once Persia. I mean, that's considered the Tigris-Euphrates basin is considered the birth of humanity. So, yes, we had the Native American indigenous tribes on this continent,
right,
but given the past life recurrence of our soul incarnating, reincarnating, reincarnating in the past, jumping to the future, going back to the past, it's more likely that we have spent more lives in Europe,
right,
Asia, Northern Africa than
right.
any place else on the planet.
Yes, assuming like one body, one soul, just distributing it over time based on, like, where how the population grows and
Yeah.
goes over, it's actually, like, the least likely place for you to have a past life would be North America, and then Australia and or I don't know, Antarctica, something
Well,
really
yeah,
crazy,
Antarctica
yeah.
for sure,
Um,
100%.
yeah, and that's making a lot of assumptions, but it's just that you're not the first person I've heard have an experience like that, have this kind of reaction to a place that's familiar to you or that you have some sort of a spiritual connection with, and that's so interesting to me. I felt very much like that in Amsterdam. Just
Mhm.
walking down the streets and then kind of, I was just having this feeling that I couldn't get over. I'm like, "What is it about this place?" And then my friend comes up and taps me on the shoulder. He's like, "You're standing on a burial ground, like, literally right here in the street in like a park in the middle of the city." It's like, there's bones in this ground, that there's just no other place to put them because over time, we've added land and built things on top of things, and, if you go to Paris, go to the catacombs, go to
Yeah,
Switzerland, stand in
yeah,
those places, and it's remarkable.
yeah.
Um,
No, and
so
I love those moments in life where soul recognition just pops through, be it through a place or a person or whatever, but you just have a sense of, like, there's something familiar here.
was it the first time that you'd had any sort of experience like that, or did you have a sort of a development of, psychical ability or just an understanding of the stuff prior to?
Yeah, I mean, not an understanding. I mean, I
Okay.
wasn't raised with that, language or that awareness. I was raised Catholic, so, that looking for those types of cues were not part of the lexicon in my home,
Mm,
that I was raised in. But my very first really, really powerful soul recognition experience is I was in 6th grade. I was playing soccer, and there was a girl on the other team who I'd never seen before. It was a team that came on a bus. And the minute I saw her, Tyler, I could feel her pain.
right.
Like, I wanted to just burst into tears, and I was so compelled by this girl, and I'd never f and I can still feel the feeling
Sure.
now. I'm now 50, I'm turning 59. So, it was so powerful, and I didn't know what it was, but I remember when they left, I remember feeling loss, like sadness that she was gone.
Mhm.
But it was her pain I felt. And it was that was the very first time in my memory that I had soul recognition like that.
I think we're definitely gonna talk a lot about tarot. We've got a couple of hours here and stuff, but I do wanna, kinda start with, like, that journey into figuring this stuff out for yourself, and I can really personally relate to, um, having an empathic experience and not having the vocabulary to describe what it is that I had felt.
Mhm,
And it was one of those things that I think my mother could probably talk about more extensively than I could because she saw it third person. But, something like seeing someone who had been, in a traumatic accident or something, even, like, walking down the street, people who had gone through amputations, anything like that,
mhm.
for it wasn't that they horrified me, like, I looked at them and there was something wrong with their bodies, it was that, like, I just felt this cloud of, like, pain and energy and stress, and over time, as I got older and older, I kind of realized, like, "Okay, I need to, like, be more measured about how and when I expose myself to things like this, even crowds and stuff like that." And I think I found that book. Was it The Empath's Survival Guide? Have you ever heard of that
Oh,
one?
yeah, I've never read
Yeah.
it, but
It it's kinda woo-woo, it's kinda The Secret. kind of sounding stuff, but in general, it's really good advice. It's like, if you find yourself, whatever language you want to use to describe it, even if it's a completely secular point of view, really hypersensitive to other people's emotions, then it's good to take steps to guard yourself and to know how much you can give or expose yourself without it taking away from your ability to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, and so because my techniques are, salt
sure.
and dark like black quartz or black crystals. I
Mhm.
keep those in my work area all the time. Um, but for the most part, I've never suffered from, like, the intrusion, the violation of someone's energy into mine,
Sure. Um,
uh, which I'm grateful for because it sounds very destabilizing and
that
really disruptive.
it really, really is, and I think that, that's a lot of people who are, again, using whatever language you want to describe it. Like, if you're hypersensitive to anything, we talk about autistic people in,
Yeah.
modern language, we'd say like, "Oh, he's hypersensitive," or ADHD people, like, they have a hyper focus, and it's not as simple as saying, like, they have something wrong with them. It's like, okay, they're tapped into something, they're experiencing something that we're not also experiencing, and I think that a lot of people grow up just not having the language to describe what it is that they're experiencing. Um, with you remember the Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger, the
I know
guy
of
who
it. I've never seen it. I was
don't
too much of a chicken.
there's no reason to watch it, but I will say that the story behind it, the archetype of someone coming into your dreams and violating you when you can do
Yeah,
nothing about it is exactly what you were maybe you could use the language of like a soul vampire or energy vampire. But
yeah.
these spirits, these things, these manifestations, it could be something, it could be an addiction, or it could be a person, deliberately sort of violating your space. And I think even Star Trek had a whole episode about the one of the main characters. She was an empath, and
Oh,
she
yeah,
has
Deanna Troy, the character.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's having these dreams where there's another man who's also got the same power, and he's able to infiltrate her dreams, and she doesn't know how to describe it. But that's
I
exactly the
remember that
same.
episode. I'm
Of
such a
course.
Trekkie.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, me too. I've got
I
the
love it.
Enterprise tattooed on my arms and
Oh,
everything.
I mean, I love it. That's so
Um,
great.
yeah, we could talk about Trek too, but, the point being, I think that there's just so many, attempts even through media to talk about this stuff, and then, it's only through things like your work that I think people really find solace, and they say like,
Right,
"Oh, that's how I know someone else knows what I'm saying." Not because you used exactly the correct words, but because you told a story that encompasses that.
right.
Yeah. What was the inspiration for the Arcanum series?
So, this I have to go back a little bit in terms of how I found tarot.
Okay.
In 2012, I found myself in a really scary health crisis.
Mm,
Thankfully, nothing catastrophic remains of that, but as I was healing my life, I realized that my marriage was ending, and then my dad was dying. So all these huge stability factors in our life are your health, your primary relationship, and then one of your primary adult role models is all at risk.
right.
And as I was in my proverbial dark night of the soul, I had to find something just to distract me from my reality. And I went into a store to actually buy a crystal. It wasn't to find anything else, but there was a tarot reader in the store, and I'd never done it. I'd heard of it, of course. And I asked the store owner about, what is this? Tell me about it. And he took me to his wall of decks that he sold there. And I bought my first tarot deck,
Which one was it?
the Morgan Greer.
Okay. Okay.
This
What is it about that deck that stood out to you?
It was the colors. It's a very colorful deck. It's very vivid, and I am a very visual person, so I was very gripped by the illustrations that they use. So that it was really the colors that are in this deck that I love so much.
Right.
But I studied the tarot, and I told nobody, not a best friend, not a sibling, nobody knew for over 3 years. And then long story short, I told people about it, and it eventually led to me starting my business, and which is now a global business, and it's just all beautiful. But in 2017, one of the things I did before I started my business was I wanted to try how do other people run their business in an energy platform, be it astrology, psychics, mediums, that type of thing. So I did
Most of them don't.
What?
Most of them just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see what I'm lucky about is I'm a business person. I was raised by business parents,
Right.
so I have that, comfort there, but I did a past life regression in 2017, and, she told me that I was in a karmic cycle of being a woman in the company of very powerful men, but never as the wife, always as the muse or the mystic or the mistress. So, I
Mm,
didn't think much of it. I was like, "All right, well, that's interesting," but I just moved on. Well, in 2020, when we were all at home, I was bored, and a friend of mine said to me, "Let's use your tarot cards and channel what these past lives were of your soul with these powerful men." It was really just something to pass time, So we met on Zoom. It's all recorded,
mm.
and I ended up channeling over 40 hours of 8 different past lives of where my soul has apparently been. And they were so rich. There's so much intrigue. There's so much beauty, but also pain and loss. And I knew I had to tell the story, and that's how Arcanum was birthed. So Arcanum, the past lives are channeled through the lens of my soul, even though it's a fictional novel.
No, this is, another one of those things that I feel like comes up in this space a lot, is that the attempt to tell a true story through a fictional lens, right?
Mhm.
And I think that this is one of those things that people get hung up with any holy book, the Bible, whatever, all the allegorical stories, fairy tales, myths that we have. It's like the truth is there. Like this for you, it's like your past lives that you feel you need to express are coming out. So for you, it's true. For the reader, it's a true story, but it's, for whatever reason, we categorize this as fiction. And sometimes it's done on purpose, right? Like there's a long standing history of people hiding the truth in allegory for the a specific purpose of not being caught doing it because it
Mm.
was something you could be punished for, something you'd be judged for, whatever. But did you do that consciously, or did you have like a plan? You mentioned coming at this from a more of a business angle. Did you feel like the it occurred like you got this 40 hours or of your all your past lives and you're like, okay, the next thing I need to do is write a book series,
Oh
obviously,
god,
or
no.
okay.
The last thing I wanted to do
Yeah.
was write a book series.
Yeah.
Believe I First, this friend of mine and I that participated in it with me, we contacted, some contacts we have in Hollywood and on networks because it would be such a fun show because of all the different eras and civilizations that these past lives occurred, ancient Egypt,
Right.
Renaissance France, medieval Scandinavia, the Vatican City, so really beautiful settings and times in human history. Um, but everybody said to me, "Kel, you need a novel."
You
You
should
really
always write a book before you attempt to make a film or
Well,
TV
I
series.
wish I had but you had been the friend I needed then, because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, I hemmed and I hawed because 'cause I'm not a writer, I mean, I'm an author now, but I still don't consider myself a writer, and, I finally just bit the bullet and said, "All right, let's go, let's turn these into novels," and I figured if I was going to write novels, why not monetize the novels? Like, write the series of novels. Because one novel would just be like drawing a painting of a woman's face and only putting one eye on the face,
Sure.
it doesn't give the complete picture. So here I am, I'm writing book 3 as we speak.
What this may seem like it's off topic, but it's really not. What are your metaphysical ideas of how the universe works? And I guess the real question stemming from that is, does the story of your past lives, their characters, do they inhabit the same like physical, metaphysical universe that we do? Do you feel?
Um, Metaphysical universe, the
Sure.
metaverse, yes.
Okay.
This specific universe, no.
Right. So they're not necessarily like lives that were lived by a human being on Earth. Is that
Oh, no, they were on Earth. They were
okay?
on parallel realities of Earth, in my opinion.
Okay.
Um,
That's
you know,
answering a lot
and
of questions. Yeah.
and, you have to understand something. Linear time and third dimensional space
Mhm.
is not real to energy. It's a man-made construct that we use, especially linear time, in order to keep our world have a sense of order and control.
Right.
This third dimension that we live in is mostly an illusion, right? So everything that I channeled and everything that I'm writing about, I mean, I can't sit here and swear to you that it is 100% true and it's 100% accurate. But what my belief is that the truth of us is that we're energetic beings
Mm.
having a human experience. And our energy body, our soul, our true self, whatever you want to call it, is the part of us that never ceases to exist.
Sure.
And then once it has finished its time here in this meat suit, it will return to the field of existence, which is the truth of everything, which you can call a field of love, you can call God, you can, whatever. I call it consciousness. And the idea of past lives, first of all, I want you to understand something. It, they're lives that our soul chooses. I really
Mhm.
believe we have the free will choice to choose to have a human experience on this planet, in this on Earth or any other planet or a civilization that may exist, in order for the pure purpose of learning and ascending and growing the vibration and frequency of the energetic body.
Yeah. I'm not in any position to disagree with any of that. I guess, how did you go from, being raised Catholic to buying a tarot card deck to arrive like, how did you develop this sense of metaphysics? Like, this is
Well,
how the universe works, and
yeah. Well,
yeah.
because first of all, in school, I was much more excited about science and math than I was about English. And I've always liked history, but English,
Right.
I couldn't, it wasn't my strength. So science has been something that always has interested me. And so as I was learning the tarot and learning about divination and my intuitive muscle was strengthening, I needed a framework, something for my scientific, egoic mind, my brain, to hang on to. So I did a deep dive into physics, quantum physics, and all of the technological and informational breakthroughs that we've made in this era of human history. At the time it was what, 2014, 2015, 2016, that from that time forward. And I found a lot of hard concrete data that supports a lot of what I'm saying,
Mhm.
especially with the quantum realm now. And quantum physics has made some great, really compelling breakthroughs. And that very much satisfied that skeptic brain of mine. So then what was able to happen is with that part of me being satisfied and not constantly throwing static and roadblocks into my ascension and my evolution and my growth, I was able then to completely let go and lean into faith
Okay.
and trust.
I think that, a lot of people have I should start with a lot of people who do have that inclination towards the logical side of brain.
Yeah.
You even hear it kind of talked about amongst theocrats, like comparing the Orthodox Church to the Catholic Church, where it's like the Catholic Church is all intellectual, and the Orthodox Church is like, oh, it doesn't. Don't worry about it making sense. Like, it's primarily emotive. That's the idea. Both pointing towards the same universal truth, or at least claim to. But yeah, the way that we arrive at these sort of different conclusions with different points of view, different experiences of how our brains work, whether that be coming from a more math or humanities side of things or whatever. And so you you seem to have sort of came to the almost like you did with Florence. You came to the table with an innate understanding of your parts of this for yourself. Right, like, a general hurdle that a lot of people run into when they get into this stuff is that they don't know how to monetize it, or they feel guilty about monetizing it, which is a big part of it too. You already knew how to do that, or at least you had experience doing that kinda thing.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that this happened sort of by chance, or do you feel like there was an intelligence guiding that to happen?
Oh, 100% intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely lived through the experience of my stubbornness and my fear
Mhm.
preventing me from knowing what my soul was trying to tell me. I knew there were 5.
Mhm.
I just didn't wanna know that with
Uh,
my marriage, with how I was living, the choices I was making, all of these things.
mhm.
I had priorities that superseded my own desires. So I put that to the side, but trust me when I say this, when you ignore the call of your soul, it will turn up the volume
Yes.
to get your attention. So the volume got turned up so high that I actually got sick. I manifested a disease, and that got my attention. And somehow, in the healing of my body, I healed myself right into the authentic alignment with the path I was supposed to be on.
Did you ask for something to give you that guidance?
No, that's why I think it was such a difficult experience. If I
Right.
had asked and had been open to receiving that, it would have been a much smoother transition. But this was painful. This I mean, I had to end a marriage. I had children. Like, I had to cause pain to people that I love.
Yeah.
I don't want that for anybody. I mean, and so if I had been open and asking, because I ask now all the time for guidance and I get
Right.
guidance all the time, but it's smooth and it's easy. The resistance doesn't have time to build up because I'm constantly asking and open to what comes.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the greatest gift I've ever been given, despite the pain of it.
Do you think that pain is necessary for growth?
Pain is necessary for change. It's definitely not necessary for growth.
Okay.
But oftentimes humans get so comfortable and we fear change, therefore we don't grow. But if you are willing to embrace change, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to blow up your side of the street to have change happen. It can be how you approach something, it can be about your point of view and your perspective. You don't have to change one detail of your life in terms of where you live, who you live with, what you do, all these things. But you change your inner frequency and vibration about it all, and things will change. But because humans are innately wired to fear change, it's programming,
Mm.
pain becomes part of the experience because it's the only way to force change.
You ever taken, one of those surveys where it just, like, sort of asks you pointed questions to try to decide, like, "Oh, you fall into this category," with religion? Or, like, I think everyone's taken maybe a Myers-Briggs or a personality test, but or
I
who what
never did.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I know them. My siblings did it and all that. I never did.
right. I think
Yeah.
the reason I ask is, um, the way that they sort of break them down is interesting to me. The questions that it would ask you to determine, like, which of these religions, of all the world's religions or whatever, do you most align with, so to speak? And it's not really about what the answer is, it's almost like tarot where it's like, it's what the questions you're asking and how do you interpret the data that's coming back to you, but, um, some of the main things that it asks you is like, where do you think that what is the origin of suffering? Like, that's a huge thing that separates Buddhism from, I don't know, Christianity, from
Mm,
Hindu, they're all they differ on things like that, and having something that points to you, like, these are actually the key differences, it makes it, for me, easier to see how alike they really are. That,
mm,
but yeah, something like the origin of suffering, or whether or not there is something innate like a soul. Like, I think that's a lot of people walk into, a Zen Buddhist temple, and they're from a Western point of view, and then as soon as they hear something like no soul, it's like, "Oh, well, this is the devil," or whatever, and they leave it alone. Um, do did you search through different people's, gurus, teachers,
no,
read any books?
never.
No, just all came through
It's
you.
just purely my own journey, my own experience with my higher self
Yeah,
and my guides.
how did you come in contact with these guys?
Um, well, to use some expressions that a lot of people know,
Mhm,
I mean, to me, I feel like everybody constantly uses on a daily basis what is called in certain circles clairsentience. It's
mhm,
just a knowing, right? It's a hunch.
mhm,
It's an instinct. It's a sense about something. It could be about your kids. It could be about your work. It could be about a trip you're about to take, whatever. But we all have clairsentience. My guides came to me first through clairaudience. I started to hear in my own voice. It's not like I heard voices.
Right.
It was my voice, but it wasn't my words. It wasn't coming from me. Um, so I started to get these like messages, these inklings of thoughts, possibilities, ideas, guidance,
Mm.
choices to make. And I realized that that was not coming from my brain and my mind. So where
Mm.
the hell was that coming from? And that's where the tarot helped me a lot because tarot is a language. And just like any language, the vocabulary of each card has certain meaning
Right.
and it's concrete meaning. You know, the word blue can be a color or it can be an emotion like sadness, right? I love the color blue. I feel blue. Those are the two meanings of the word blue.
Right.
And in the tarot, each card has its own same type of exact meaning. So the cards I would use to help me confirm what I was hearing, what I was sensing.
Mm.
And when I learned to realize, like, oh my God, it is accurate, then I just kind of, again, I got out of my own way and I allowed it to build. Um, is it, what are these guides? That I can't really tell you. It's not like, there's Esther Hicks, of course, is one of the most famous human beings that channeled her guide, Abraham,
Mm.
which is a collective of some sort of spiritual being, but she has named it Abraham. I've never been given a name. I've never been given. It feels angelic in energy, but it's not necessarily angels the way we think of them from religion. But it's just that's how I came to really exercise that intuitive muscle and trust it.
Yeah. Uh, you used a really important phrase, at least for me, where you're saying, um, let me try to, I'll have to rewind it and go back to see exactly how you said it. So I'm just going to reiterate it like this. The, the disincarnate, intelligence, right? The fact that this thing, this whatever multiples or whatever, it is an intelligence. It's guiding, but you recognize that it's not yourself, right?
Mhm.
I think that's the phraseology I want to focus on. I think it was Krishnamurti, who was he was basically raised by the Theosophists. He was this Indian kind of guru character that was Annie Besant basically took custody of him as a kid, took him around and stuff. He wrote some really profound teachings, despite all the craziness that went on around him. One of them was that you have to recognize the voices within yourself that are not yourself. So he
Mhm.
would say, like, your body wants something, but that could be food, it could be a drug, it could be sex, it could be anything. But
Mhm.
y when that doesn't align with your true will, which I think the Thelemites might have more to say on that, but focusing on kind of his teachings here, your your will doesn't align in that point at that point with your body.
Mhm.
Then there's also your mental self, and then he also described the astral self sort of
Mhm.
as three separate people living within one.
Yep, I
Um,
agree with that.
and I would say, from Christians use the terms the Trinity all the time. I think almost never really having an understanding of at least where that concept came from prior to its development in Christianity. But everyone has the id, ego, and superego. You could call it that. You could call it the astral self, the mental self, and the physical self. But none of those individually are you. And it took me well into my 20s and deep meditation practice and a lot of guidance to arrive at that conclusion. And
Mhm.
it's amazing to me to hear you say that almost intuitively, like it was just you already knew that. Where does
Yeah.
that come? Yeah, why?
I don't know. I just think it was something that there were it's interesting, when I too was in my 20s,
Mm,
I dipped my toe into this pool,
sure,
and I did start reading books, Wayne Dyer was a young guy then and had just written one of his most famous books that still
sure,
to this day was one of and Louise Hay was just coming really online, and so I read some of these books about the higher self, the
sure.
truth, and it resonated so deeply, Tyler. It would move me to tears. I
Mm,
I felt like I was finally coming home. And then life interceded, and I got distracted by more superficial pursuits, career, things like that. And so that got shut down. And again, it didn't reawaken in me until this episode of the health journey. So, it's always been in there, just like with everybody. It's a seed that is just waiting to be watered just a little bit. And the minute you water it, in other words, give it a little attention, give it a little um, acknowledgement and permission to grow, then it will grow. But it just also depends. Like, don't forget from what you said, like, it it has to grow within the person I am too, not just the infinite being that I am.
Right.
So, I think one of the reasons where I'm an intuitive channeler for sure, but I don't call myself an empath
Sure.
because I've always had really good, strong boundaries in my life. Always.
Sure.
I've always been able to hold good boundaries. No has most of my life been a complete sentence for me. So I don't have that sensitivity. I mean, yeah, I was a woman in the Western culture, so I was a bit of a people pleaser, but not to the point where I don't allow a lot of things to penetrate me that aren't mine.
That's good. And
Which has been great. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's been really lucky. So I haven't. So my point is that this intuitive gift grew within me, within, of course, the boundaries of me,
sure.
and the way that I learn and the way that I trust. And you have to understand something when you are in the throes of losing everything that you have held dear, and that has been the definition of your life thus far. You It's literally a game of 52 card pickup. It's like you take a playing card deck and just throw it in the air and just like, all right, wherever they lie, I'm going to start from there. So that kind of surrender, I had no resistance because I was just I was finished. I was at the end of my rope.
Sure. You had to be broken down.
Yeah,
You have
and
to be
so I
humbled
just
in order to build.
completely it was like a fast track
Sure. Um, I love mythology. I love
distance that
symbols,
makes
if you
the
can't tell.
journey so long.
I think that when you when you look at some of these stories about the gods of, I don't know, Greece or whatever, or India, uh, you hear all of this language talking about when someone basically comes to a crossroads in their life, and the the manifestation, the intelligence that they call God, has to humble them in some way, has to strike them with lightning in their place, or my favorite, of course, is the story of Job, right?
Yeah.
All of the worst things that could possibly happen to someone. He has to lose everything in order to arrive at the conclusion at the end that there's something bigger than myself, and it's not for me to decide how things ought to be. But for we haven't really talked about, and you don't have to be specific if you don't want to, but like, what were you suffering from? I mean, you're in a bad relationship. You're uh, coming to a point, I guess, in life where there's not a whole lot of decisions where, like, I can start over completely where I was when I was 21 or whatever. But what were you suffering from, do you think?
I developed a whole host of what is now called autoimmune issues.
Okay.
Uh, back then in 2012, it was we were just starting to scratch the surface, maybe of fibromyalgia and lupus and things like that.
Mm,
Um, but what I had done is I had manifested this disease because I had swallowed my voice for so long, and and I I kind of put myself into a shell of an existence and a life
sure.
that wasn't authentic to my voice, to my heart. I was happy. Don't get me wrong. I was very happy for a really long time, but I wasn't being true to my heart. It
Ye
all looked good. It all was good. I mean, my ex-husband is a wonderful man who I care about deeply. I just couldn't stay married. But there was no like betrayal. There was no abuse. There was none of that. But I betrayed myself. And when you basically cut off your heart from being a part of how you move through the world, your body will suffer.
mhm,
Because to me, the origin of suffering is the absence of love. And And I'm not just talking about, I mean, everyone's going to think it's romantic, intimate love. No, not at all. To me, the highest vibration of love is compassion.
Yeah.
And there's kindness, and there's gentleness, and there's forgiveness, and there's friendship, and there's, there's so many different vibrations of love. And I literally had cut off the vibration of love within me. So I
Mm.
got sick.
Yeah. I had a friend who went through something similar, I think, but it was not really around a marriage so much so as around her parents when she came of age. But
Yeah.
she had developed a tumor, cancerous tumor from all of the stress surrounding it. And then was, "Oh, this is horrible," all that sort of thing. But uh, I think instead of what a lot of people would do is stay with the unhappy family and try to go do, you know, allopathic treatment, all this sort of thing. She just removed herself from the stressful situation and the tumor went away.
Of course. And
And
I'm very
you can't
grateful her
call that a
body.
miracle, right? You can't,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm so grateful her body gave her the gift of a tumor, because that's
Mm,
that's like an encapsulated form of, like, all the anger, all the resentment, all the pain is just put into this, like, structure in your body. And I know it's scary to get that type of diagnosis,
mm.
but I'm so glad it wasn't a systemic situation.
A lot of people would have been given that same news, and it would have made the situation worse, perhaps, made them
Much. Yeah.
more stressed out,
I'm so glad she saw it for what it was. God bless. That's awesome.
Yeah, and, that's so there we could fill up 3 hours with just
Yeah,
telling
totally.
stories that we both know about, that kinda thing. But it's so interesting that to me, like, when these with things that you might call a miracle, they do happen, and it's like equal parts from both sides. One being the sort of skeptical materialist side saying like, "Ah, well, these are the physical explanations for that, therefore it's not a miracle because you can explain a miracle physically," right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know, it's like if you said like, what's the miracle of life? Where does it come from?" And I say, "Ah, well, it's just, a seed and an egg, and then they grow or whatever, and it's just, thermodynamics, there's nothing to it." Like, that doesn't make it any less of a miracle that it happened.
Right.
Um, and the other side of that, though, being the people who I think walk into these sorts of things with a preconception of what their spiritual lens will let them see. And you may hear the same words and be completely put off. I used the example earlier of like soullessness and Buddhism or whatever, but anything at all. Even just something as simple as you're from New York and I'm from Alabama, and
Yep.
there's probably words that I could use that or that you could use that we wouldn't understand. Like what does that mean? Turn a phrase, something like that. At that same level, like if you just simply take the normal level of misunderstanding you have on a day-to-day basis with the people that you're closest to and extrapolate that all across, cultures,
Yeah.
time frames, spiritual lenses, whatever, it can become very, very confusing. One of the things that I never try to assert any sort of like overarching truth that anyone else should believe in, but on this journey, this podcast, learning from people like yourself, talking about this, there are always differences. Your experience is different than I don't know, like Dr. Bruce Selheim that I had on before.
Of
But
course.
where they overlap, the things that you hear wiser people say that remain true consistently throughout each of their stories. I mean, those are the tarot cards of life. That's how I see it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't necessarily see uh 10 swords, right, occur in every single lifetime. But I do see these archetypes, like these things come up repeatedly amongst people who are successful or people who have gone through trauma and overcome it. Um, Whereas the same story might be told and then just end for someone who doesn't progress. I think that that says something about, we've used past lives, we've used the words like reincarnation, that kind of thing. I think it says something about our intuition, the way our brain works,
Mhm.
that when we tell a story that there have to be these ingredients, there have to be these cards along the way or whatever that we recognize. The
Mhm.
order can change, but the story ultimately remains more or less the same. But I'm curious though, like from your perspective, you mentioned the tarot as a language. Like I don't know, do you speak Hebrew? Can you read Hebrew?
No.
That's See, that's one of those things. So you came to the thing completely just from an intuitive standpoint. You're attracted to a color, and that you speak the language of colors. That's what got you. But
Yeah, that's what compelled me to buy that deck, my
right,
first deck. Yeah.
I had to go intellectualize it. I had to be like, okay, where's I'm gonna go read the Hebrew alphabet and figure out what every one of these symbols mean. How does it match to the 22 of the greater arcana? And I need to make all of those connections just to like you mentioned something earlier, I think, about, you have to make it make sense to you logically before you can have that transition to it becoming faith. And I think
Correct.
for me it was the same way, maybe just a little longer of a workaround.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got to I mean, we because every person approaches it differently, and we're
Sure.
supposed to.
Sure.
And I like you, I find comfort in the overlap.
Mhm.
When someone has had a similar experience or can speak, like what you just said, just about the tarot. I mean, you approached it from a different lens using the Hebrew alphabet, and
Right.
um, but at the end of the day, you learn the language. And it's now something that we can discuss and converse about and learn from each other and
Mhm.
all those, I mean, amazing things. But for me, to go back to what you said, I mean, thank God not every person has a Ten of Swords
Right.
experience in their life. And just for those of your listeners that don't know the tarot, the Ten of Swords is our mental body, and the Ten of Swords is very painful endings in your life that causes you a lot of great mental disruption. It could be really hard to shake, in other words.
It's
Uh,
usually drawn as a dead man with 10 swords stuck in him.
yeah, it's a really gruesome illustration.
Yeah, but
But going back to the archetypes, then we were
mm,
talking about the first 22 cards of the deck, the major arcana, which is cards 0 through 21, and that's what we call in the tarot the fool's journey, but it's the characters and characteristics that everybody experiences in life over and over and over again. A similar description of what I'm talking about is Joseph Conrad's hero's journey.
mm. You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. Please take a moment to tell at least one other person how much you enjoy the show. That's right. Grab that link and send it to that buddy you're thinking of who you know would be interested in what we're talking about right now. Maybe post it somewhere. I know it seems scary, but you can do it. I believe in you. Don't hesitate to leave a comment and a 5-star review, a like, wherever you're listening. And if you want, Patreon supporters for this show get episodes early, access to our secret Discord channel, chances to suggest questions to our guests, our games, and whatever else I can do for you. Every little bit helps. This podcast directly supports my ability to do what I love and take care of my growing family. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, bless you, stay in the keep.
You have the beginning.
Campbell,
Pardon?
Joseph Campbell.
Oh, Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
Thank you. All I know is I knew it's hero's journey.
I knew you were saying the right thing, and then it was going to bother me if I didn't figure out
No,
what you meant.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad you did. I love having it right. I hate being wrong and things like that because Joseph Campbell deserves all the credit.
Yeah.
Um, but it's such an interesting language to use. And remember, the tarot at the end of the day, it's just a divination tool of the human experience. And it's really supposed to be a divination tool, for the one, for the self, to help you understand where you may not be seeing something clearly. Where is my vibration in relationship to this topic?
Right.
Because I know where my thoughts are. I know where I'm holding stress in my body. I know oftentimes well, not everybody knows their emotional body, but most of us know how we emotionally believe we feel about something. But we don't know where our vibration is in relationship to it. And that is the key to everything. That to me is why tarot is such a powerful tool. Because when you can take ownership of where your frequency is in relationship to a topic in your life that you are either suffering from or enjoying, you can change what's happening in your life.
I think you mentioned earlier that change is always painful, and like when you go to sit down with someone who's going to redo your tarot cards, let's just any random group of cards that they show you. Some of them may mean something to you, and some of them may not. Like when you look, I don't know, maybe you pull the 10 of swords in front of someone. They look right at that, and it doesn't ring a bell. That doesn't mean it doesn't apply to them necessarily, but what it's telling me is like, okay, that's not the part that their brain is ready to focus on. So then maybe they gravitate towards like, oh, I don't know, here's this chariot or
Yeah.
something like that. They gravitate towards that. And it's so interesting to watch someone extrapolate from something. Like they just see like, what? Well, there's something about this right here, like that. I see that. Why is that? And they're asking themselves questions, and then they're starting to answer their own questions, and then they want to thank you at the end or whatever. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like you did all the work yourself, but what happened was you had a change in your brain. Like you just went through the process of change because you made a connection. You saw something that made you question, why do I have a relationship with this thing? That's by definition magic. Like when you change something with your will,
Yeah.
drawing a symbol, drawing a picture, saying words in a certain way, whatever that happens to be. If you can affect someone that way, if you can cause someone to change, you have done magic. In this case, you're doing it on yourself. You could have people who try to like mess with you about that, like to manipulate you, to cause you to, maybe think something that you're supposed to do karmically that is not true or doesn't apply or is just for their gain. There's plenty of that kind of stuff, but just viewed completely as like almost like a psychological tool. I think the tarot is probably one of the most interesting things I've ever come across in life. And I wasn't the kind of person who would, like you were saying earlier, like I was not the kind of person who was going to be playing with tarot cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of us aren't.
Yeah. What do you have a card that you have a special relationship with or maybe see often?
Yeah, the strength card. That's definitely the theme of this life for me. It's the number 8 card.
Mhm.
Obviously, the name of the card is it's very self-evident. It's about strength, endurance, lasting power, finding your way through, knowing it's gonna be okay. All of these things. The
Effortlessly mastering things that are difficult. It's one of those
pardon?
things. You've effortlessly mastered a lot of things that I think people
Yes.
find difficult,
Yeah.
and that's like, for people who are following along audio, grab a card, go on your Google or whatever, but strength is like a woman holding a lion like a baby, like, just as if it's not a problem at all. That's something that I wanna, like, drive home here is that that's been a lot of the things that you said were sort of this particular thing that took me or someone else, like, so long to into it, you just had it. You had it from the jump.
Yeah,
It's a
taming that
gift.
wild beast
Sure, yeah.
over
Wh
and over and over. Um, yeah, so that's probably it's not my favorite card in the tarot, but that's the card that is the theme of this life
Mhm.
of Kelly O'Hearn. My favorite card in the tarot is the Knight of Pentacles
Why the
because
Knight
it's
of
the
Pentacles?
safest, most trustworthy card in the deck. It's the slowest moving energy in the deck, but it's when that shows up, whatever you're talking about, whatever topic is on the table, whatever query has been asked, something safe, reliable, and lasting will come of it. It may not happen quickly, but it will come.
I think that's a really good interpretation of it. I think of him as, like, dependable, like, this like,
Yeah.
or trustworthy or something like that.
100%
Yeah,
trustworthy, safe, reliable, all those things.
sure. Do you do you have, something I don't wanna ask about any, like, particular client or whatever, but, like, a situation where you've seen someone, uh, completely read the wrong message and then go out and do the wrong thing?
Well, you have to understand something. When I work with people, they don't read the cards, I do.
Okay.
So the way I work is people come to me, obviously, when they are in crisis. No one comes to me when life is going swimmingly. I work primarily through Zoom. I only work in person maybe 10 to 15 times a year.
Mm,
And I work with hundreds and hundreds of people every year. And they observe as I get their cards for them and I interpret the cards. Now, I do have some clients, of course, that speak tarot, so we can riff and converse about it.
mm.
And then they can share where it is resonating with them, where they feel it's aligning with their life and their reality. Because remember, Tyler, I'm an intuitive channeler. I can read people's energetic bodies. I cannot read their mind. That is not my gift.
Right.
So I can't say to someone, I tend to pull 5 cards at a time. I'm very much like odd numbers. I do not use any spread. I'm not a spread user. Um, so I can tell them what the energy is and where I'm feeling it. You often can sense if it's in the arena of love or the arena of career or the arena of but I can't say, oh my God, your husband Tommy and his brother John when they were, like I can't access memories because I can't read people's minds. So, but yeah, no, my clients do not read their own cards with me.
That's very interesting. Did you always do it that way, or did you arrive at
Always.
that?
Always.
Okay.
It's
You ever thought about doing it a different way?
no, because this way is so powerful.
Okay. I'm not questioning it. I'm just
No, no, no.
curious. Yeah.
It's a valid question. I mean,
Mm.
it's not that I'm not open to other ways of doing it. I mean, there's so many ways of working with tarot.
Mm.
It's incredible. But I am paid to channel their energy to help them to understand where that is. So they are paying me to read their cards. If they could read their own, they wouldn't pay me.
Have you ever not told someone information about themselves, or that you might have known, like,
No.
trying to protect them?
No, that's another reason. Now, I have had to deliver some really, really difficult truths
Mhm.
about where people's energy is in relationship to things. Obviously, for instance, one of the hardest things to hear is, if you and your partner don't change your energy and your approach, this relationship most likely will end. Be it a marriage, a long-term commitment, it doesn't matter. But regardless, it's no one wants to hear that they're going to have the chance of a loss of love. Um, but I'm a very compassionate person, so I always phrase it in a really loving way because there's always an opportunity for change. You just have to put in the work.
Mm.
Nothing has to end, but the way you engage in it has to change, or else you'll just get more of the same. So I have to have very difficult conversations with people and make them take ownership for their part in their reality. Because the rest of it's just an illusion. Now, I don't say that to my clients because a lot of people aren't ready to hear that.
Mm.
But life is just a reflection back to you of what you are, not what you want. So people have to take ownership for that. And that's where I come in.
Do do you find that people, when they hear something like that, do they reject that more often than not, or do you feel like you have the trust of your client where they're gonna just take your word for it?
Yeah, great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I've had a few people that have been very much in a rejection. They haven't been ready.
Right.
So we pivot, you know, and that's okay. I literally say to them, like, it's okay. If this isn't resonating with you right now and you're not ready to hear this, that's okay. Let's pivot to a different way of approaching it.
Sure.
Because there's so many ways to, quote unquote, skin a cat. So a lot of people, most of my clients I've earned their trust implicitly. So they really trust, and it rings true. They feel it within them. They may not want to know it. They may not have want to accept it, but they know it lands true. And that, like you just said, that's the magic. That's the miracle. That's when things start to change and shift.
Can you explain, like, for someone who might be listening and doesn't know what we're talking about, the idea of the fool's journey and, like, sort of the story that the tarot tells?
Of course. So in the tarot, the Fool's Journey is 22 cards. It starts with the 0 card. It's 0 intentionally because nothing has really happened yet. And the Fool card, which is the 0 card, is the leap of faith, the new beginning.
Mm.
And it's called a leap of faith. And in the card, the classic illustration is a gentleman literally on the side of a mountain who's about to jump off the mountain. And that's oftentimes what we do over and over.
Unwittingly, by the way. I just wanna say he's not, like, committing suicide, he's, like, careless.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But oftentimes, in order to make things happen and shift in your life, there has to be that moment of just releasing control,
Right.
which is what the Fool represents. So you then move through a lot of archetypes, characters, the magician, the emperor, the empress, the Hierophant. And and this is all about the masculine and feminine. The magician is about manifestation because after you kind of surrender um, control and your grip and restriction around something, all of a sudden you're open to pure possibility, and that's what the magician card represents. But the fool's journey takes you through all of the experiences that you have from the beginning of release and surrender to the actualization and completion of a cycle. It can be a cycle that lasts for an entire lifetime. It can be a cycle that you do in the transformation of a body, perhaps through weight loss and exercise. It can be in love. It can be. I mean, we go through fool's journeys all the time
Mm.
in so many different ways. But there is, there's the buildup and there's the understanding, the way we approach it. Do we take a more masculine energy of do and action and forcefulness, or are we more feminine and intuitive and allowing? But then there comes the crisis cards of, the death card, the transformation, the tower, the devil, where you really have to face your fear and face your blockages and face your truth. And then the healing starts, and then the resolution, and then you start all over again.
Do you do you, did you ever study the Kabbalah? Like the
No,
Okay, that's another weird. It's another one of those things. Like, how do you understand this stuff without knowing
I know.
sort of origins and stuff like that? Did any of your past lives study this stuff?
Not in the ones I channeled for Arcanum, no.
Mm,
Um, but again, I'm given a lot of information.
okay. Have you looked into other people who have had communications like this in throughout history?
Uh, like such as
There there are lots of people throughout the course of history, right, who've had relationships with guiding voices, or as you said, like a spiritual guide, right? Whether that be, I don't,
no. I mean, I've I've watched videos like YouTubes with
sure,
Mr. Hicks and Abraham, Daryl Anka who channels Bashar, but I don't follow them. I just,
right.
they've come across my feed.
Yeah, I mean, in my particular case, it's like I've talked to several different people who have talked, like, tell me I've talked to this intelligence or this thing. And some of them have
Uh-huh.
names for it, some of them don't. One of the ways that you can sort of corroborate these things, like, do they make sense? Is like, are there consistencies that occur throughout them that say that you didn't talk to the other person in game, right? Like, or you didn't hear it in the news and say like, okay, that was what makes sense. Like if two people say they got abducted by aliens,
Uh-huh.
and neither of them know each other, neither of them saw it in the news, and both of them say, and the aliens had red eyes, and they did this or
Sure.
said this to
Yeah.
me, then it's like, okay, whether or not we think you're lying about the aliens, how did you two both know to say that, right?
Exactly.
So a corroborating story. Uh, so one of the things that is a consistency, I mentioned earlier how a lot of people, like you said, they don't have a name for it. It's not presented to them in that way. Uh, One of the most famous mystics of all time, like Helena Blavatsky, right? She and a few other people allegedly were part of like a group who were receiving written letters from a Tibetan guru
Oh,
who,
wow.
they can't prove whether or not this guy even existed, but like sort of the entirety of the theosophical movement is built on uh, basically 3 people received these letters from this guy, or 2 different guys. Okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they received letters. That's really not the important part. It's some of the things that these entities say that remain true throughout time. So if, I don't know, this is 1870 something or whatever, Richard Sennett and Madame Blavatsky receive something, and it's telling them like, "This is the divine teaching, you need to do this, this, and that." That could be all a bunch of made up BS, right? That could be as crazy as Joseph Smith and his golden tablets. But let's just say if Joseph Smith had channeled the same thing, right? That someone else completely unrelated to him had channeled the same thing.
Mhm.
That is pointing more closely towards truth, or more evidence to support their claim. And I try not to get lost in the ways that they differ. Like I said earlier, I like to find the overlaps and like, okay, what's the core story here? And I'll leave it up to the, audience people to decide for themselves. But when I'm hearing you talk, it sounds so crazily like there's so many things you don't intellectually understand, like through your own admission, that you have to have had some sort of experience with in order to, on the level that you do, be able to talk about the tarot, right? To be able to express it in such an eloquent way, and then with that, I'm like, but do you read Hebrew, or do you know anything about Kabbalah? Like, you know so much about something that is entirely based on Jewish mysticism, and then you're telling me you don't know nothing about that. Somebody somewhere, someone told you this. Someone put that in there, like, downloaded it maybe Matrix style into your brain.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I appreciate the software upgrade.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be past life, as you know. I mean, I obviously, of all people, would believe that, and I know our past lives somatically live in our bodies and
Mhm.
they are accessible. But I've gotten to the point, and I've done this long enough. I mean, I haven't done it as long as many people, but I've done it as long enough for me that I have released all resistance. I don't have a quiver of doubt when it comes to this bucket in my life. So I'm just an open channel.
Are you
And
afraid of something using that for something bad?
like I said, I have great boundaries they wouldn't dare.
Mm,
I'm too strong.
okay.
And when I first started, I would take on sometimes the energy of the person I was working with, and I would feel like a little strung out and a little like, ugh, but I knew it wasn't mine.
Empathic mirroring, I think a lot of people would call
Is
that.
that the words?
When
Um,
you're dealing with someone who you don't really know, and you're sort of giving them back the energy they're giving you, as like a, maybe it's not on purpose, but it's like a survival trait. Like, you're
mhm.
mirroring back the same energy, but then you end up feeling like they do because you're sort of behaving like they do.
Yeah, and because when I work with my clients too, I'm working in their energetic body, and I'm literally
Mhm.
helping to shift their frequency.
Okay.
I'm wanting to make them an energetic match for the results that they want in life where they are not seeing those results. But I now know how to do that where I can go and, to use a Star Trek term, mind meld, energy meld with their energetic body, work with them, raise the vibration, and then I can remove myself fully out of that
Mhm,
and not take any residual of theirs with me. When I first started, I would take that residual with me,
mhm,
but I don't anymore. But you have to understand something. I also don't live in a world. I know evil exists. I'm not. I would never ever even think otherwise because
mhm.
we live in creation of duality and of opposites. Um, but it doesn't exist for me. I don't resonate with that, so I have no fear that anything's gonna come after me.
Okay. I think there's language for this, probably honestly from Theosophy, but it's likely based on something older, like Hindu, Buddhism, somewhere of Eastern origin.
Mhm,
But this concept of, like, you talked earlier about the third dimension, or
mhm,
the middle layer of reality. It's like we're above the lower frequencies, but we're far from the
mhm,
highest frequencies, so to speak. Uh, and their teachings are sort of aligned with, like, uh, the things that we call spirits or disincarnate intelligences, consciousnesses. Some of them are, something that we're getting, like a wave in the ocean, from way up on high from the source. Some of these are, people's spirits who don't have a body, lost it somehow, or negative energy that manifests into something, right? And that stuff does exist. But once you, like, let's just call ourselves, like, everyone starts on level 3. Some people sink down to level 1 and have to get back up. Some people, sounds like in your particular case, start at like 5 or 6. You're like, you come into this life on this wavelength, right? And then maybe you have to get broken down before you're even ready to go, higher. That's possible too. Um, but when you are, say, inhabiting the the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, something like that, the lower vibration stuff down on level 2, 3, 1, whatever, are not affecting you the same way that they would if you were on level 3 and it's on level 2.
mhm.
Almost like a gravitational sort of concept. Like, the further away the two things are, the less they interact.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Though they do interact no matter what the distance is.
Right.
It's the spooky action at a distance, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
with the quantum physics stuff. Do you? do you find yourself, because you said you're at a stage now where you don't doubt this at all, but do you find yourself still learning new tricks, new ideas?
All the time.
Yeah.
I
Wh-
mean, we're infinite. There's never going to be enough. We're never going to know it all, and we're
mm,
never going to want to stop learning and stop just all of it, like creating and living and learning so I mean it's, I don't think I walk around this life like skipping and whistling a tune every day. Like I'm human. I have my fears. I have my challenges. I have my restriction. I have my stuff. Right.
sure.
Um, but I love it.
Mm,
I have no desire to ascend to Buddha enlightenment, Christ consciousness. And that, I mean, I love the humanity and the messiness of it all.
sure.
I I just love it. Um, so it just doesn't stick.
Mm,
It happens. I have an emotional response, which if it's a challenge could be frustration or anger. It could be heartbreak or tear, sadness, whatever. And then it's over.
you ever practice meditation?
Yes.
What what style, or what is it that you do when you meditate? How do you practice?
It's the Kelly style.
Right, right.
I
As with all
every
things,
Again,
everything you do is
I've never
yeah,
read a book.
right.
I've never, done it like I did try a couple of, like, recorded apps,
Yeah, yeah.
but that wasn't for me. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a very visual person. So I found the, idea of imagining a safe space where I could just kind of hover and be was very helpful to me because I need a visual.
Sure.
Um But my meditations are busy, they are busy. Not my mind, I'm not thinking about my life here,
Right.
but I'm engaged with sounds, with lights, with different energetic beings. It's it you know, it When I hear people talk about medicine journeys and stuff, I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like my meditation."
Mm.
Um,
Do you have vivid dreams also?
no,
Interesting, okay.
I'm not. I mean, sometimes I do, but very seldom.
Have you ever had an experience where you were in control of your own dream?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have that same experience during meditation, or do you feel a passenger in
Oh,
your
no, I'm totally in control.
okay. So do you think that those are 2 different occurrences, like the the wavelength or the experience you're having meditating and the experience that people are having when they're asleep are not connected,
No, I
or
don't. I mean, I think my astral body, my higher self, whatever you wanna call it,
Mm,
is taking and my mind we're having a moment, like, we're having an experience. And
mm,
if some people wanna astral travel while they're sleeping, and experience it that way, that's great. I mean, I love it when I dream, don't get me wrong, I wish I dreamt more.
mhm,
Uh, I love to dream, and, for those who haven't yet flown in your dreams, make an intention every night before you go to bed and just say out loud, "I'm gonna fly in my dream tonight," and just keep saying it until you do, because it's
oh,
the
yeah.
best feeling in the entire world.
I had a guest who's a close friend on, actually, is a guy named Kai Vrand. He's Dutch, but he was very into lucid dreaming and was one of those people that could, like, train himself
Oh my
basically every day, like, "Okay, I'm gonna knock on the door every time I walk through the door, that way when I'm dreaming, I'll do that, and then that'll remind me, like, oh, yeah, I'm"
Oh,
and he
that's
could
so cool.
and it's so fascinating to kind of hear those stories, but it's one of those things about consciousness where it's like, is the dream world, you know, the same as the, I don't know, the astral plane, or are they different occurrences, right? And I don't know. And
I I
it's interesting because people like him can't meditate. That's why I bring it up.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah. Oh, how interesting.
Right.
I like how you just, explained that for me, because then I the penny went in the slot. I do think they're a little different,
Mm,
at least for me. In my dreams, I can or not that I can, I have exhibited some control over what's happening,
mm,
shifting a scene, things like that. But most of the time, I'm more of an observer. I'm more at the whim of what's going on around me and kind of just moving through the dream.
mm,
In my meditation, I I'm I'm such an active participant. And it's not because I'm controlling it, but I can like, I'm so at one with everything that's going on, and if it's very sound-based, I mean, I literally have broken apart into pure vibration, to in order to become one with the sound, things like that.
Mm.
But there's no fear. I have never ever come out of meditation in a heightened state of adrenaline or fear, or you know how sometimes you have a really intense dream and you wake up and you're still reliving it a bit and you're
Right.
you're having a somatic response in your body. That never I still come out of my meditations completely just, I mean, I wouldn't say calm, but not stimulated
Sure.
physically.
Sure. Yeah, it's
So for
it's
me they are different.
it's profound, I think, to look at the different ways that people meditate. I said, the first question was like, "Do you meditate?" And then I had to clarify. I was like, "Wait, wait, wait. What do you call meditation?" Because so many people do it in so many different ways. I remember someone had broke it down. I don't remember if this was like an NPR thing or whatever, but someone was talking about the difference between mindfulness and mindfulness, right?
I
So
love
my
that.
right. So one way of meditating is this idea of like clear your mind, right? Like empty your thoughts and don't, focus on one thing or whatever. But then there's the opposite end of the spectrum where it's like you need to find like the optimal level of keeping yourself constantly thinking, such that you're neither overwhelmed nor are you feeling the anxiousness of being bored. And that's also, like, sort of a meditative experience, or at least something that you can do and find yourself reliably sitting on a wavelength brain-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, totally.
right. So in, like, when you're walking and pushing a stroller and you've got your cell phone in your hand and there's music playing and you're doing everything effortlessly, that's a different, your brain is doing something different than when you are sitting down and figuring out how to do something technical for the first time. So,
Right.
like pulling your computer apart or something like that. That's a completely different process. Same way, when you sit down and when you meditate, I bet you if we like put an EKG or something on your head and
Yeah.
see when you're like, my body's breaking apart with the sounds and I'm talking to all these spirits. And then I sit down next to you and also meditate my way. I bet you we have completely different results. There's probably totally different things going on.
Totally different. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really important thing to continue to talk about because so many people
Mm.
it just breaks my heart because so many people that I work with, they wanna meditate, but then it causes a lot of self-judgment because they think they suck at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, that completely defeats the whole point of meditation because meditation's supposed to be a chance to tap into and check in with yourself and just release judgment, release that egoic perception of the self."
Sure.
But because they, I think, try to do the more quiet the mind and perhaps use a mantra and which is beautiful and it helps millions of people. But when it's really hard to quiet the mind.
I just
It
imagine
takes
you've
a lot of
never
practice.
if you'd never taken your physical self seriously in your life and you kinda get to a point where it's like, "Alright, I need to start taking care of myself," and then you look at, like, the most fit person you can think of and say, like, "I need to do what they're doing," and you immediately go start doing, deadlifting and bodybuilding exercises, it's not gonna fix your problem, and you're not gonna be able to maintain it because it's not where you're at.
Right.
So it's the same thing if you're trying to do something with your mind, and if it's hard for you to not look at your cell phone for 5 minutes, then you're probably not gonna be able to jump straight into,
Right.
being a Buddhist monk. You're
Yeah.
not gonna be just able to do that. You
Yeah.
need to start with something that's a little more achievable, and for some people, the first step is not to empty their mind, but it's just, like, learn how to manage how much you're taking in at a time so that it's optimal for you.
Yeah.
Which in many ways is almost harder than emptying it, to be like, to be blunt. Like, maintaining balance is much more difficult than emptying the tank or filling it up for
Yeah.
me. Uh, and I just encounter so many different, ways that people describe a meditative experience. Like, some people will go on, like, spirit walks. Like, I can only do
Mhm.
it while I'm moving because sitting still, my mind goes crazy and I can't focus on that kinda thing. Um,
I do that sometimes. I like walking meditations. Yeah.
yeah.
That
Um,
I understand that methodology as well.
do you like count your steps? Do you breathe along with a certain rhythm, or do you just kind of
No, I connect with trees.
okay, like by touching them?
No, it's more through the mycelium.
Okay,
Yeah, I know it's weird, but, it just really gets me into that zone,
sure.
um, and then I'm just in that zone for the walk.
You've looked at your own past lives and stuff. Can you think of any works of fiction or historical figures whose stories you particularly resonate with or like find interesting? They don't have to be connected to you at all. Just that stands out.
Oh, wow. Okay, give me a second. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many admirable people throughout history. I mean, can they be, like human, or can they be
Could be
like,
the first thing that comes to your mind.
so Circe, you know,
Lannister.
that just such an
Mm,
amazing figure in Greek mythology, and the newest book out was so good, and I
right.
really resonated with that. Again, you know, I resonate with people that also have that strength tarot card type of life,
Sure.
the ability to overcome, the ability to endure, um, to take on challenges and figure it out. It may not always be successful, but you somehow you land on your feet. Uh, but so I loved that, and that was recent. Um, God, I'm drawing a blank on anybody. I haven't thought about the past in so long. Um, I'm drawing a blank.
Uh,
There's no one. I don't have a hero.
sure.
Like, I don't have an idol or a role model.
Did you ever?
I must have. When I was a teenager, I had, like, crushes. Um, but no, I have to say there was never any one person that I thought, "God, I wanna be like them."
Did your parents stay married?
Yes.
Okay, and they've still are they like still together or
Well,
passed away?
they passed away, but they
Okay,
died.
that's amazing, and that might be why you didn't seek out heroes outside of that, right? Like, if you grow up with a stable outcome, like stable parents or
Yeah,
that
that's
kinda
very
thing,
true.
I feel like you don't need to go look for a dad, right? Because you have one.
Yeah, oh,
Uh,
completely.
right, I don't need to go through life looking for a surrogate mom because you have one, whereas, like,
Yeah,
in my this life, for me was a whole lot of, like, looking for someone to be my father figure, like, "Please give
right.
me some freaking guidance," and that's what led me to the military, it's what put me into, business and that kinda thing was always kind of looking at people who I thought were smarter, more successful, and then be like, "Okay, what can I take away from what they're doing to improve myself?" Um,
Wow, Tyler, that's
but
such an interesting point of view. I've never heard it explained that way, but it makes so much sense.
sure. Yeah.
It makes so much sense. I mean, my parents were extraordinary people, so they
Mm,
really showed up and gave me, what I needed in terms of mother energy, father energy, art from an archetype point of view, but also just from a loving, caring, nurturing, security point of view.
sure. I mean, it just from a just
Interesting.
completely removed from any sort of spiritual mumbo jumbo, just like
Yeah,
purely psychological point of view. The
yeah.
person who is gonna be most attracted to the archetype of a loving, caring, all compassionate father figure, who is both authoritative but also, like, caring is going to be, like, uh, women who are probably, like, single mothers or grew up without a father, don't have a husband to take care of them, and that's, like, I don't know that that's intentional, but it's like the people who have the most need, God often is reflected to them, psychologically speaking, as what they most crave. Um,
Mm.
a and that's you could get into the whole what was the era of Pisces and what does that mean for now or, like, all that kinda thing, but I don't think it's really pertinent to this conversation, but, yeah, that's a pretty profound insight, and I don't think it's not something I'd thought about before, but as you were saying it, I was like, "I wonder if both of her parents
Yeah,
were just
no,
really cool."
they were married, and they were
Yeah.
solid. completely self-sufficient, never, they died with their wits. They never faltered
Right.
until they got sick and died.
Sure.
Oh, I love that. That is so interesting to me, and thank you for that. That really that
Mhm.
lands big time.
Well, I feel like it's kind of useless to recommend stuff because you'll already know things without like, "Oh, I never read that."
No, 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 don't
But
be silly. Recommend. I
let me add this to your, like, maybe in your next life, someone will ask you this and you'll already know it, right? Um, you should really look into Carl Jung and just study, like, his analysis of symbolism, spirituality, UFOs even, and just the way that he explains, like, how this occurrence psychologically relates to myth and just the human longing for God figures and that kind of thing. And
I
then
love stuff like this.
yeah,
So,
um,
is there one book of his that you would recommend, or is it,
just
should I just
start
kind of Google it?
start with, like, man and his symbols.
Man and His Symbols. Ooh,
Yeah,
that sounds good.
just start there, and then if that it's probably like 150 pages or something. If that lands for you, then, you'll write me later and be like, "Hey, I'm really into this."
Oh, I'm super
You
psyched.
know?
I will definitely write you because I will definitely do it.
I think that as a fan of tarot, which I think he probably wrote some stuff on tarot as well, but
Mhm.
he was very big on the concept of archetypes being understood in psychology, and even, when we were talking about disembodied spirits, or, people who have dissociative identity disorder,
Yes.
that kinda stuff where it's like it's not as simple as just like this person had some trauma, so they built up another defense mechanism to make a personality that doesn't have to interface with that. That's true, but it's also true that, like, their physiology changes. Like,
Yeah,
one personality has diabetes and another one is perfectly normal kinda stuff.
right.
Um,
Exactly. It's
and so
extraordinary.
people like him were kind of looking at this like, "Okay, what are some examples we have?" We don't have history, but maybe there's something in mythology, right, that
Mhm.
can relate to that. One
Mhm.
of the one of the things that I blew my mind when I first thought about it was that if you look at tarot as a story and the fool is John the Baptist who becomes before Jesus, right, the magician who then when someone first, like, made me think of it in that way, like, I'm like, "Oh, that's why the Bible resonates with you the same way that the tarot does."
Right.
That, like, because they're both telling you just the hero's journey, the story, and it's just a
Exactly.
matter of how do you shuffle the cards.
I mean, look at every good saga. I
Mhm.
mean, the Bible is a saga,
Yeah,
um, but like Star Wars,
sure.
classic tarot fool's journey. It's the hero it's Campbell's hero's journey.
Mhm.
I mean, every good story has that element that y and it makes it a good story because
Mm,
as a human being, we resonate with it, not because we see our own current life in it, but we see it could be a past life, but we know the story somewhere deep within us. It may not be conscious, it's in our subconscious, but we know what that is.
right, yeah. Um, just you when you say Star Wars, the first thing that pops into my mind is, like, every single archetype is so drawn in black and white ink in that movie that it's hard to ignore once you look at it from that lens.
Totally.
I'm sure there are people who have written university papers on, like, how, the writers of Star Wars understood occult symbolism better than, whatever. They're probably Freemason, all that kinda stuff, but yeah, it's
Can
really
we
blatant.
just get back to George Lucas and his whole use of the Force? I mean, he was literally describing the fabric of the universe.
He was also hanging out with some very interesting people in the
I
late
mean, but
'60s and
how
'70s. Yeah.
how freaking clever
Um,
and
he
so
w
ahead of his time.
he was, following Francis Ford Coppola around the country making a documentary film while he was dreaming up Star Wars. He had like, we kinda look at it like and then he just showed up on the scene as a director, right? He'd had American Graffiti before that, and then
Oh,
then
yeah, yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars.
He'd been around.
Right.
He Spielberg and Coppola, they were all like a posse.
All of those guys. All of them, were deeply influenced by Kubrick, and Kubrick was like a ceremonial magician. Like, he 100% understood what he was doing. Like, his movies are, in many cases, like, overt rituals that as someone
Interesting.
who's not initiated into those circles would just say like, "Wow, what an interesting, weird movie." But then, like, when you start to know that, like, alright, this guy was connected to this and that, he would have known these people. The fact that this entire movie was shot in Christmas colors is not a coincidence. Like, he did this intentionally. Like, the little kid's sweater in The Shining saying Apollo 13 on it is not a coincidence, right? That wasn't just that available to them. He said, I want that kid wearing that shirt in this shot when I show this, for everything he did. It was like obsessive compulsive magicianship.
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not to start some kind of weird conspiracy theory. It's just like that
No.
a lot of the greatest stories that we get told are great stories because they are based on people who know that symbolism, which all goes back to, in Western society at least, esotericism starts with ancient Judaism.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, as it would.
yeah. It's
Oh, I'm
so
still reading Carl Jung. This is
yeah,
gonna be for me.
yeah. I really hope you enjoy it. I think that you'll get a lot out of it. Um, I think we had a little bit longer today, but I don't want to keep you too long. So I guess at the end here, I'd like to know, what cards do you see showing up for your clients the most often? Like, or maybe what types of problems do people come to you when they're facing them?
Well, I mean, really, at the end of the day, as you probably well know from, all your, studies and, breakthroughs and awareness,
Mm,
the human playbook is really like 7 or 8 plays. That's all it is. And, we all play out an abandonment wound, a worthiness wound, a fear of lack, a fear of safety, all these things. I will be seen. Um, but the big 5 are typically your love, health, career, your primary adult relationship, and death. Those tend to be really, and, so let's like take love. It could be with a child, it could be with, but most people come to me because they are really stuck.
mm,
They've tried other methods. They've tried therapy. They've tried working exclusively through the filter of the mind and the filter of their past. One thing I can tell you about my work is I don't care what's happened to you. I mean, I care because I'm a compassionate person, so I want to know your story if you're willing to share it with me, but it's not the least bit relevant to what we're about to do together.
sure.
My work has to do with where you are right now in relationship to where you want to be, because the gap between those two is suffering. That's all it is. Suffering is simply separation. So my job is to put myself out of a job. My highest compliment is when I don't hear back from a person. I love when that happens
Right.
because they have found some sort of resolution, some sort of traction, some sort of momentum in a way that is satisfying to them and sustainable for the time being and hopefully for the remainder of their days. But most people, I would say, Tyler, to answer your question, it's love or career. And and most people, when it comes to love, it's either the fear of loss of love or where is love for me?
Right.
I'm tired of being alone. With career, it normally has to do with money. And everybody phrases it with these damn words, abundance and prosperity and all this. Like, come on, let's just cut to the chase and say you want money. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
If you approach it from the right vibration, it has nothing to do with the 7 deadly sin of greed.
I approached that slightly differently. Not to cut you off or anything, but when it's like I want money, then my question is just like, what do you need the money for?
Mhm.
Like, what is the goal of like the money? Because if it's just money for the, like, I just want money, I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, well, then you don't really have a tangible goal. You know what I mean? Like, the answer is just always like, how much is enough more, right? But if
Yeah,
it's like, I need enough money to pay off my house, is different,
right.
right? Okay.
Yeah, but
Uh,
and I'm so glad you said that because that then allows me to explain, like, you won't get money if you want money from that place.
right.
That's a selfish reason to want money. The universe will only give you money if you are willing to be able to have it come through you, let go of it, and have it come circle back around. You have to be able to receive money if you're willing to give it away. It's a cyclical thing, just like everything in life. So if you want money just because you want it, you will never have it. And the one reason alone is just the statement, I want money.
Mm,
What does that say to the universe? What vibration does that put out into the field? That you don't have it. And remember, life only gives you what you are, not what you want. So you will receive more situations and experiences of not having it. You have to resonate and vibrate from the state of what does it feel like of the having of it. So for most people, why do most people want money? Is because they want the security. They
Right.
want the stability. They want to feel safe. I get it. But we have to get you to that place and that vibration with $0 in the bank. And then the money will come.
That's really beautiful. I want to throw in there at the end, like in the Lord's Prayer, there's the line about like, give us this day our daily bread. And I'm not going to try to jump into trying to explain that in Greek because I really don't understand. But the idea is that if you want something from the universe, you have to be kind of uh, participating in this sort of socialistic aspect of it. I want money when I need it. And if you're okay with not having it except for in that moment, then you will probably find more often than not that it's there when you need it. And then if you don't worry about it at the rest of the time, at the least, you won't be worried about it all the time. That's a huge difference.
Which
But
then
also,
allows it to come.
right. And then it's like, if you just kind of surrender yourself to participating in it that way, I find for me, I'm at minimum a lot less stressed out. Yeah. I'm like, well, I'll
Beautiful.
figure that out later.
That's beautiful. I love that. And that's it right there.
Mm,
That's the secret of manifestation that so many people miss out on.
sure.
They approach it from what they want, not realizing that separates them from the having of it.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time. This is honestly like some of the times these conversations are like I hear myself, like I know when I listen back to this and I'm going to hear some of the things that I said for the sake of explaining it to you. And I'm going to ask myself, where did that come from? Like, I wouldn't have even had that thought if you weren't challenged by something that lady said or whatever. It's so brilliant. Like really, you've been an excellent guest. So thank you.
You have been an incredible host. So thank you for having me on. It was a real privilege. Thank you.
And we'll send people to arcanumtheseries.com where they can grab your
my website, and the books are available on Amazon. And you can, and any of your audience can contact me through the website. And I always reply. So
thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you very, very much to Kelly for being on the show. I learned a lot there. I really, really like these kinds of conversations, even when you don't necessarily know whether you and the other person believe in exactly the same things, but just like I said in the interview, finding those overlaps, finding those areas where you can relate to someone who you may have a completely different worldview from, a completely different background from, and I strive towards that. I hope that you're enjoying it. Please let us know in the comments and tell a friend how much you love the show. I love you. God love you. Till next time, stay in the keep. You're listening to KEEP in the Keep. If you love this show and you love supporting indie video games, please take a moment to check out In the Keep's upcoming Stellar Valkyrie. Built in the GZ Doom engine, this retro first-person shooter puts you in the universe of space bird bounty hunter Falco, who is on a mission to save his ex-girlfriend from the evil Black Star cult. Just type birdgame.space, that's BIRD game.space into your browser. Hit enter, smash the wishlist button, and stay tuned.